2023 has become the year of the Klipper Pad. With many new machines being released with Klipper baked in, those of us with Marlin controlled 3D printers might start to feel like we're being left behind. That doesn't have to be the case though. Klipper control can be added to pretty much any machine with a little bit of additional hardware. Arguably the easiest way to add Klipper control to any 3D printer is with what has become known as a Klipper Pad. There are a number of different Klipper Pads on the market now, and essentially all they are is a single board computer like a Raspberry Pi paired with a touchscreen and all packaged up in a nice neat housing. The BTT Pad 7 is the latest and arguably most anticipated Klipper Pad to hit the market. Many have been looking forward to this new device from BTT because it promises to include a completely untouched original version of Klipper, unlike those of its rivals like the Creality Sonic Pad. I was sent this Pad 7 by BTT. I didn't buy this one, but as with all my reviews, BTT have no influence over the content of the video and they don't get to see it before you. As some of you may know, I put together a series of guides for setting up the Sonic Pad and tuning it with your 3D printer. The Sonic Pad was relatively easy to set up and get running, and I thought the Pad 7 would be a similar story. Man, was I wrong. Spoiler alert, I did get everything set up and working properly, and it is fantastic. However, the path to getting to this point was far from smooth. When you open the box, you're greeted with some basic information about what's included, as well as some of the specs of your new device. The pad is underneath with a few stickers, and my first impressions are that this is a well put together quality bit of kit. There are a number of ports, a flip out stand, and a heatsink which is clearly attached to the CB1 board that is the engine room of the Pad 7. Also included in the box is a power supply, a rubber duck, different adapters for the power supply, an ADXL345 3-axis accelerometer, and a cable to be able to connect it. There are also some other small parts plus an SD card reader. What you won't find in the box is a manual. The Sonic Pad had quite a comprehensive setup guide that you will run through when you first powered it on, so I thought the same might be included here. After powering it on though, all I found was an error message and a couple of menu pages. What I had noticed in some of the basic information that was included was a QR code. I tried scanning it, but all it does is send you to a GitHub page where I did actually find a manual. Unfortunately, there's no beginner guide here either though. What you do get is some information about the hardware and how to switch the included CB1 board with a more powerful CB4 version. There's also some information about how to write an image file to the SD card, which has already been done for you, but you may want to update it to the latest available. And there's also some configuration information for how to take advantage of some of the touchscreen features. But to cut a long story short, there are no detailed setup instructions for a beginner anywhere. I emailed BTT to ask them, and they said that their team are working on beginner guides, but that they didn't have anything just yet. As I'd never done a full install of Klipper on something like a Raspberry Pi, and I know next to nothing about Linux, I needed to find someone who could show me what I needed to do to actually get the thing talking to my 3D printer. It was obvious that I needed to find somebody cleverer than me, and thankfully, AuroraTech had already uploaded a video guide on how to set up the Pad 7 with multiple 3D printers. Have a look at their video and give them some love because they consistently put out great content and reviews. Links in the description. Staying firmly in the mindset of a complete beginner, I wanted to complete the setup process in as few steps as possible to see how simple it could be. I therefore left out some of the tips and additional information from AuroraTech's video that I'll come back to later. So in very basic terms, this is what you're going to have to do to get your Pad 7 set up and connected with your 3D printer. For my setup, I used the Sovol SV06 Plus, which I've been reviewing over the last few weeks, and I'll link to all my config files if you have the same printer and want to go for the easiest, quickest setup. Like many of us setting up Klipper, at stages I've used other people's config files and then modified them to my own needs. I don't claim to have completely compiled them myself, and you use them at your own risk. First, you need to connect your Pad 7 to your Wi-Fi or local area network. Some of the setup needs to be done on a separate computer that connects to your Pad 7 through a network, either wirelessly or with an Ethernet cable. Secondly, you need to compile or find firmware that needs to be flashed to your 3D printer. This can be done with the Pad 7, but only when you remotely connect to it and not on the screen like you can with the Sonic Pad. Once you flash this firmware to your 3D printer, you'll then need to compile or find a printer config file, which will then need to be uploaded to your Pad 7. This tells the Pad 7 how to talk to your printer and all the settings to use to control it properly. This all sounds quite simple, but with no instructions other than other YouTubers' videos, I found I had quite a few challenging hurdles to overcome. First, I couldn't get the Pad 7 to connect to my Wi-Fi. I tried typing in my network details on the pad itself, and for a brief moment it did manage to connect, but then after that, nothing. My nearest Wi-Fi extender is around 10 meters away in my house, and virtually every other Wi-Fi device that I use out here connects, including the Creality Sonic Pad. Not the Pad 7 though. No, to be able to give it a reliable Wi-Fi connection, I had to buy a new, more powerful Wi-Fi extended and reconfigure my network. Even then, with the Pad 7 sitting less than a metre from the nearest broadcasting network point, it still refused to connect. I told it to forget the previous network and to instead use the new one, but it seemed to just want to keep trying to connect to the old one and generally getting confused. To finally solve the issue, I actually uploaded a completely new operating system image and then edited a config file on the SD card and manually put in all my Wi-Fi details. I then put this card back into the Pad 7 and everything worked. This was a lot of messing around, all while talking to Big Tree Tech to try and solve my issues, and it cost me days, not to mention the cost of my new Wi-Fi extender. Once I was finally connected, things started to happen. I updated all of the Klipper elements and then found the IP address and connected remotely using a web browser on my PC. I was very fortunate to find that Bassam Anatol had already done 90% of the work in converting a Sovol SV06 or SV06 Plus to Klipper. He has a GitHub page with free downloads of everything you'll need to set up one of these machines with Klipper, including a printer firmware klipper.bin file. This saved me a ton of time and I followed his guide virtually to the letter. I did need to make a few tweaks to some of the files where they referenced Pi for a Raspberry Pi instead of BQ for the Pad 7, but once I'd figured it out, everything worked. Also, finding the port IDs wasn't simple, and again I found this information from Aurora Tech, which I've obviously linked in the description. The good thing about Klipper is that when things aren't working, you very often get an error message which gives a brief description of what's wrong. These can be a good starting point for a Google search, and eventually I got everything set up without too much pain. As I say, I've linked to all of my working config files as well as the GitHub page that helped me so much for if you want to use a Pad 7 with an SV06 Plus too. Once I was up and running, I started running through all of the calibrations that I needed, as in my Sonic Pad series. I tuned the PID settings on both the hot end and the bed. I checked out my rotational distances. I set up a new slicer profile, and then I tuned input shaping using the included sensor. First I needed to connect the sensor to the pad and get it to talk to it. Once again, I found myself trying to work out how to do this with the Pad 7. The manual that I found online did actually have some information about this part, and with a little bit of trial and error, I did actually manage to get the sensor connected. After that, it was just a case of following the Klipper GitHub guide on measuring resonances and entering a few commands into the console. Once the test was complete, the Pad 7 automatically wrote the input shaper parameters into the printer config file as it should. After this, I ran a couple of test prints to work out my best pressure advance figure and what my maximum acceleration should be. With everything now tuned and up and running, I decided to print a couple of test prints. The Benchy came out great with just some minor drooping on the bow, and I can't fault the calibration cube. I then pushed on with printing some bigger stuff. This tool vase is something that I use to test the full height of larger machines and can be really difficult for Marlin controlled machines to print with all of the movements needed. You can see the difference here, where Klipper control from the Pad 7 really shows what it can do. I did then try to print this huge rainbow dragon, which, even with faster printing from using the Pad 7, was still going to be a couple of days to print. Everything went well up to a certain point, and then I had some pretty huge layer shifts. Frustratingly, I wasn't in the room while this happened, so I don't really know the cause. It did happen on the hottest day of the year so far, so I don't know if temperature might have played a part. I haven't had the issue with other tool prints, so I don't know if it was the Pad 7, the G-code file, the printer itself, or some other outside influence. Unfortunately, the only way to know for sure may be to run the same print again, but when it uses 600 grams of filament, it's not the cheapest way to diagnose a problem. I'm sure I'll figure out what happened, but in the meantime, here are some pros and cons of the Big Tree Tech Pad 7. With the Pad 7, you get a full, unmolested Klipper experience, which, depending on your own experience, could be a pro or a con. On the positive side, you get to use all of the cutting-edge Klipper features, which at the moment are exclude object and adaptive bed mesh. You'll also be able to keep up with any new features that come out too, rather than relying on what a manufacturer thinks you should have. This also makes the Pad 7 more future-proof, whereas something like the Sonic Pad is only going to be updated as long as Creality stay interested in it. Also, the Pad 7 can be converted into a mini computer if you upgrade the board, which could make it more useful in future if for any reason you don't want to control a printer with it. Whilst Big Tree Tech don't currently have any beginner guides to get you started, there is a huge amount of information out there for getting started and tuning Klipper. If you do have any issues or get some error codes, then you're only a quick Google search away from figuring out which direction to go in to get things sorted. And as with virtually all Klipper setups, adding a camera to the Pad 7 is very easy too. On the negative side, for a beginner, the setup process is really involved. There's virtually no help from Big Tree Tech, and you are very much reliant on YouTube and other internet sources to figure out how to do things. The Wi-Fi issue caused me quite a lot of head scratching and cost me some money to get things sorted. If you can't set up your Pad 7 close to a Wi-Fi transmitter, then be prepared to upgrade things too. On the Sonic Pad, you have your handheld till you at least have your printer connected, but with the Pad 7, you're somehow expected to know how to do things. This makes me think that Big Tree Tech are aiming the Pad 7 not at beginners, but more at experienced users. However, if you already know how to do everything, then you could probably just set up a Raspberry Pi and a separate screen. Adding Klipper screen is not a big step further once you've already done everything else. There are also a couple of things I don't love about the hardware too. There are only 3 USB ports. If you want to run a USB camera, then you can only plug in 2 3D printers. The Sonic Pad has 4 USB ports, which means that you can run 1 more printer. What you can apparently do with the Pad 7 though is use a USB hub to expand the number of ports that you can use, which you can't do with a Sonic Pad. If you do want to control more than 1 printer with the Pad 7, then you will need to write a new image file to the SD card, which is something that I haven't got to yet, but will be doing soon. Also, I find the touchscreen to be a bit laggy. There's a small delay between pressing the screen and something happening, which can often result in multiple presses because you think your touch hasn't registered the first time. I find myself constantly comparing the Pad 7 to the Sonic Pad, and with the Sonic Pad, the touchscreen responds much quicker. I'm sure things would speed up if you changed the included CB1 board to the CB4, but then that's just more additional cost. At the time of making this video, the Big Tree Tech Pad 7 is $130, whilst the Sonic Pad that I keep comparing it to is $160. There is also the FL Sun Speeder Pad, which is $150, but I haven't tried using one of those yet. Make sure you check out the links in the description for the best deals I can find for each. So, who would I recommend the Big Tree Tech Pad 7 to? To my mind, there's no doubt that Klipper control of a 3D printer is better. It allows you to do more in less time with more control. How you decide to implement Klipper control is a different story. I found getting everything set up and running on the Pad 7 to be a challenge, and I do this for a living. Yes, I have a lot of 3D printing experience, but I'd never worked with Linux before, and my main experience with Klipper was with the Sonic Pad or with 3D printers that come with Klipper natively. It does all start to make sense after a while, but don't expect to have a plug and play experience with the Pad 7 if you've never used Klipper before. Is it easier to set up the Pad 7 rather than taking a separate Raspberry Pi, a separate touch screen and making everything work together? Yes, but it's not as easy as some of the other options like the Sonic Pad, which guides you through everything. The Pad 7 is really just all the hardware talking to each other, but you have to figure out all the rest yourself. Because of this, I would say that if you already have some experience of running Klipper or you like a challenge, then yes, the Pad 7 could very well be for you. It's very possibly the best option for you if you want to take full advantage of all of the latest Klipper features and those on the way. That's why I actually reached into my own pocket and bought myself another one. I have many different machines and I want to be able to run them all on Klipper, and I don't want to be limited by what a manufacturer decides to put out. It is now possible to get root access on a Sonic Pad, but its limitations just make me hesitate when it comes to committing all of my printers to the Creality ecosystem. However, if you think that the more DIY setup process might cause you some frustrations and you don't need all of the latest Klipper features, then maybe the Pad 7 isn't for you and you'd be better off with something like the Sonic Pad. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you want to see more of my videos, and if you want to see what I thought of the Sonic Pad that I've mentioned so much in this video, then click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.